Hello and welcome to this episode. My name is Robin Bevan and, I want to talk about something that has been, I suppose, plaguing Gen Z, but other generations in various ways as well. So, I have recently seen a Substack article by Freya called The Age of Abandonment, link in the description. When I was reading it, I could see a lot of my own experiences in it as well. My own feelings of abandonment by society and system that just does not seem to care. As she had said, it indeed ties to traumas and deep fears. Also, how the culture treats emotions as weakness or just makes one the problem for it. Not seeing how it is not Gen Z's fault. Freya also said something which is, I feel, most often not talked about enough. She said, for a start, many of us grew up in broken homes. Our parents are strangers to one another. Our childhood, a series of exchanges from one house to the next. No real home, no place to belong. And it really does not help how it is treated as entitlement or other labels thrown, your way. Speaking here directly to, those of Gen Z listening. That is what is part of the scapegoat complex the Jungian analyst Sylvia Brinton Perera talks about. Needs, including childhood dependency needs, are cut off, pushed away. Where the pain of previous generations who could not acknowledge their own trauma and emotional disconnect led to these divorces, and children, especially, bearing the brunt of it. Where the culture scapegoats people who are traumatized due to it. As if, all of you are somehow the problem. And the thing is that you are not. The hyper-rational culture that can't acknowledge emotions is. And in that sense, it has emotionally abandoned not only you, but, various people. So the deepest sense, we live in a culture that fears emotions. It wants to fix them, take them away. And those who express them are being seen as the problem. Something to fix, pushed to conform to the emotional aesthetic norms of a robotic culture.
In conversion phase 1, cleanse the brain of emotions.
Great, fight it. They can't convert you if you fight back. You're strong. Don't give in to it.
Where if one feels deeply affected by something, one is labeled. As Freya also wrote, it is easier to accuse people of having some political agenda rather than just being overcome with this feeling and pain, this feeling of absolute abandonment. And she said something very apt about this as well, that beneath what looks like the age of entitlement, below the culture of narcissism, quote unquote, this is actually the age of abandonment. The thing is that we live in a culture that is akin to an emotional ash desert for many, where the only options it gives people is quick dopamine rushes to fill the emotional void left by this trauma. Yet, I would say that this behavior itself hides a much deeper truth, as Freya pointed out, as underneath all is what Perera pointed out, what I renamed to the victim child, the part of the inner child that feels abandoned and which carries the trauma from childhood. Now when it comes to this, I've been working on the solutions to these problems the last 8 years, especially during COVID, when I lost my job and had to sell what I had. I could really see how society tends to abandon its people. So I really wanted to figure out a way to solve this. So I wanted to see what is missing and how we can bring something back. Because none of this is right. I mean, not just for myself, but for all other people similarly that are in a similar situation and are going through it in various ways. Especially when it comes to, Gen Z and the youth in general. Because you are all the future. Instead of being wounded and traumatized, you should have been loved and seen. Celebrated as the potential the youth really is. And I've been working through my own feelings of emotional abandonment from childhood as well. And I know quite a few others from my own generation that have this too. So I fully get it. I get the pain of it. And I've lived it for, the last 27 years, trying to deal with it somehow, to conform to this society. And what I can say about it is that the only way out is not to do the whole self-reliance thing. I've done so for the last 27 years. And I can say it doesn't work. Because you end up emotionally breaking down after decades of it. And I know this fear of love, the fear loss that comes with it. That feeling of, if I will love, truly let myself feel, it will just be taken away. Any moment it will, I'll slip through my fingers and I will be alone again, abandoned. And I know these feelings, I've been through these feelings, I've processed these feelings, and I can say it's very difficult to have them and to not know how to heal, to how to move forward. But I can say that there is a way regarding that. And regarding, the entire series that I'm making, I'm doing all of this partly out of a need to, put all that pain and trauma that I have into creative work and something meaningful to do. But also to bring what I've learned towards others so that they can also learn from it. Because I feel like Gen Z doesn't have to go like trial and error through this entire thing. Has to figure all of this out on their own, like individually. Because there's a lot of stuff out there. And what I've been doing is compiling a lot of this to understand this, like what is going on. And this is why I am bringing out the series Awakening to Our Cultural Crisis, and why I am talking about the scapegoat complex in this series, next to these different deities like Wotan and Iskorios, Artemis and the Arctea, Dionysus and the sovereignty goddess. And these are not just deities, but symbolize the rite of passage that allows one to free oneself of parental issues whilst fostering a sense of belonging with peers, being guided by the elders of the tribe in the original ancient sense, where Dionysus, as original dying in the rising deity, symbolizes both the child that got dismembered and traumatized, that carries this pain, but also the potential for renewal, which directly ties to the sovereignty goddess, who is linked symbolically to social cohesion, the protection of the marginalized and community bonds. And together, in the ancient sense, they and their interconnected rituals that I will go into in this series from a historical lens and Jungian lens, were ancient psycho-spiritual tools for healing and creating the community and social bonds we so desperately miss in modern society. So it offers a pathway to heal from the trauma in ways beyond our modern culture can offer with quick fixes, pills, and emotional numbing. And in the deepest sense also take away the power of all this blame game that is going on, with all the weird labels about somehow us being the problem because we have emotions and we were dealing with all this trauma from childhood or anything of the sort, where we can empower ourselves and actually not be affected by that anymore. So I'll put together these interconnected rituals where the pathway that children in ancient times went through to allow the divine child archetype, their true potential and authentic self, to be brought out of this state of deep pain. Not through quick fixes, but through deep healing, striking at the core of the issue. Children and teens used to go through these rites, exactly because humans are flawed. That's why it is important for any society to nurture and protect their young. That is what the original Wolf Apollo with his ephebe, so the young adolescent man, or Artemis with her Arctoi, the young adolescent women with their tight rituals were for. They were the protectors of the youth. Much like how the Corybantes, ancient warriors and dancers who were children of Apollo, protected infant Zeus and later also infant Dionysus in myth. And they all point to the same underlying human need for our potential to be protected from the harm of chaos and hyperrationality, as it is those disconnected from emotions that sow the seeds of chaos and harm, that swallow the potential of the youth like Kronos devoured his children, out of fear and trauma. In that sense, it is easier for others to blame Gen Z or anyone else for this. But the matter of the fact is that dependency needs for children are no sign of entitlement. Next to this, having unmet emotional needs from childhood does not equate to weakness or being entitled or narcissistic. Because the thing is, it is the narcissist that can't deal with emotional reality. And they are the ones disassociated from reality itself. The Jungian analyst Perera also wrote about this in her book. And she said, generally, the parents of scapegoat-identified individuals have conveyed to their children that they, the parents, are both fearful of and incapable of confronting emotional and symbolic reality. They put roles, practicalities, and imperatives next to impersonal issues as buffers between others and themselves, where propriety and duty supplant personal feeling and responsibility in relationships. So they fear the exposure, the nakedness of direct emotional contact, where coping competently becomes a primary value, and emotions expressing pain and fear are belittled or ignored. Scapegoaters then also seem to have a profound fear of confronting their own essential helplessness before life. They defend against this helplessness by acting as if there were a practical solution to every problem. And within the complex, and in relation to the scapegoated child, they are stuck themselves in magical concretistic thought. So the reality of the psyche is not admitted, it is split off. Thus, they tend to read emotional messages as concrete, collective, practical signs, misinterpreting the child's emotions as physical fact, a concrete demand, or a globalized statement. And these concretizations and globalizations exacerbate feelings of helplessness, which scapegoaters with their brittle persona egos cannot tolerate. Hence, they are thrown into deeper cycles of rejecting the seemingly too potent child with their emotions. Where she further wrote, one young woman said about her mother's demanding style of psychologizing and pathologizing her. When we talked about our feelings maturely and endlessly so she could feed off them, then we could say we were angry or upset. And in most cases, the scapegoating parent receives the child's expression of impulses so defensively and so impersonally that the child feels they are a danger to the adult and hence also to themselves. And whilst this is the case when it comes to parents, within the book that Perera wrote about, this also similarly applies to, other individuals that one interacts with as well, that shy away from, real emotional reality. But I do want to say with this that the very fact that Gen Z is admitting to trauma, to their emotions, how they feel, is itself proof that they are not entitled, needy, or narcissistic. Because this is a projection of the other person's own shadow and helplessness and fear regarding emotional reality, the real messiness of life, which leads to labeling and dismissing the emotional reality of many who are actually suffering. And I want to say with that your emotions matter, you matter, and man, I'm truly sorry for, the culture we are all born into, because it is none of your fault that this is such. Yet I do want to say that, the only way out of this is to heal, but not in isolation, with others, as we can see this with the Corybantes too. The only way we can nurture and heal our inner child is in an emotionally safe connection. And this safety can only come about through mutual work regarding building trust through vulnerability, by presence and holding space for our own and each other's emotions without needing to fix them. Where I also just want to emphasize that you matter not for what you do, but because you exist. In that sense, healing comes through acceptance of the person as they are, not labeling them or trying to fix them as if there is something wrong with them when it comes to trauma from childhood. As this trauma is relational and can only be healed relationally, not in isolation or by mere cognitive means. Instead, it's about allowing one to feel and have these emotions seen without needing changing. As acceptance, emotional safety, and true emotional attunement is what heals and thus changes the pattern. Where also when it comes to all the problems in the world, in society, the feelings you carry, the entirety of it all is not yours to carry alone. And I know you're told over and over by the society to be strong and all the pull yourself up mentality things. Yet the real truth of it all is that no healthy self-reliance and independence is possible without also acknowledging the fact that we are humans, not gods. We also have dependency needs, and those needs you have from childhood are more than valid. It does not make you selfish or entitled to want to be treated like a human with emotions, because you are a human and you have emotions, your own inner world and emotional reality, and that matters a lot. It is not, something to be fixed, drugged away, or otherwise dismissed as a problem. It should be seen for what it truly is. A need to be seen for who you are, who you truly are. That inner child within you that is crying out to be seen and recognized, to finally feel seen and held, like you as child wanted to feel that someone cares, that someone is there for you, has your back, loves you and cares about you, not for what you can do or some external pressure to perform, just to be loved for who you are, the sole fact that you exist. That you are a wonderful expression of life itself that should be cherished for the beauty and potential it holds. And for those interested in wanting to learn more regarding, everything that I will cover, within the Awakening to Our Cultural Crisis series, I will cover various topics tied to scapegoating, shadow dynamics, and Indo-European and Neolithic history, shedding light on deeper aspects of the collective shadow, the repressed aspects of the culture, tied to the Proto-Indo-European Choreos, which is a warrior band and rites of passage, next to the Arctea, connected to Artemis and the sovereignty goddess, all to bring back forgotten knowledge and what light it can shed on our contemporary struggles. These ancient human patterns that play out like an eternal reoccurrence throughout history. And if you're interested in what I will go into in the Awakening to Our Cultural Crisis series, you can also already now get the book Alchemy of the Psyche, which contains the information as well, where you can also support me on Patreon as well. And for those who feel called to support my work, I would be immensely grateful for that, as I do want to take this further and build on the insights of the series and my work, to continue making it more and more practical and grounded for everyday life, so people can feel heard and seen in a world that does not seem to care about the true emotional reality of people. And I do hope that all of you that have been listening to this and gotten to this point, to take good care of yourself and to know that there are people that care. And with that said, I want to wish you all the best and maybe see you next time in the series, or maybe elsewhere. Okay? Bye-bye.